The Eras Tour broke every record. Highest grossing tour in history. Seismic activity registered on earthquake monitors. Fans camping for days. Spending thousands. Crying uncontrollably. And when it was over, many couldn't remember what happened. Not vaguely. Literally couldn't recall chunks of the 3.5-hour experience. The concert security guard who worked over 40 Eras Tour shows across multiple cities witnessed something that convinced her this wasn't just an incredible performance. It was a mass consciousness event. A collective trance. And Taylor Swift, whether intentionally or not, had become the focal point of something far beyond entertainment. This is what really happens at an Eras Tour show. And why millions of people can't stop going back. The security guard had worked major concerts for 15 years. Every big artist. Every genre. She'd seen fanatic crowds. Emotional audiences. But nothing prepared her for the Eras Tour. The first show she worked was in Glendale, Arizona, March 2023. The opening night. And from the moment the doors opened, she knew something was different. The fans weren't just excited. They were altered. Eyes glazed. Moving in synchronized patterns. Speaking in references and phrases that sounded like code. And when Taylor appeared on stage, the reaction wasn't screaming. It was something else. A sound. Unified. Harmonic. Like 60,000 people becoming one voice, the guard's job was crowd control. Watching for medical emergencies. Fights. Disturbances. But at the Eras Tour, there were almost no incidents. No fights. No aggression. Just thousands of people moving together. Singing together. Crying together. And she noticed they didn't look at each other. Everyone's eyes were locked on Taylor. Unblinking. Unwavering. For 3.5 hours. The guard tried it once. Tried to watch Taylor for an extended period. And she felt it. A pull. Like her thoughts were being gently guided. Like she was forgetting where she was. Who she was. Just becoming part of the crowd. She had to look away. Break the connection. And when she did, she felt disoriented. Like waking from a dream. Between songs, Taylor would speak to the crowd. And the guard noticed the phrasing was specific. Repetitive. You're safe here. This is your place. We are all connected. You belong. Over and over. Different words but the same message. And the crowd would respond. Not with screams but with this low hum. Agreement. Acceptance. The guard had studied psychology in college. Recognized the patterns. This was anchoring. Neuro-linguistic programming. Creating associations. Building a psychological framework. And it was working. Perfectly. The guard also noticed the set list structure. It wasn't random. It followed a specific emotional arc, opening with high energy. Building excitement. Then dropping into vulnerability. Sadness. Introspection. Then climbing back up. Empowerment. Joy. Release. It was designed. Like a journey. And the crowd moved through it together. Emotionally synchronized. The guard watched fans around her. During sad songs, they all cried. During angry songs, they all tensed. During joyful songs, they all radiated. 60,000 people experiencing identical emotions at identical moments. That's not normal crowd behavior. That's orchestrated. Then there were the physical effects. Multiple fans would faint during every show. Not from heat or dehydration. From emotional overwhelm. The guard would help medical teams carry them out. And these fans would be disoriented. Not knowing where they were. What happened? One girl looked at the guard and said, "Did I miss it? Did I miss the show?" The guard told her she'd been in the stadium for 2 hours. The girl had no memory. Just blank time. And when the guard asked what the last thing she remembered was, the girl said, "Taylor looking at me. Just at me." And then nothing. The guard started documenting patterns. In her notebook. Times when the crowd seemed most affected. And she noticed it correlated with specific songs. Songs about belonging, about finding yourself, about being understood. During these songs, the crowd would go still, stop dancing, just stand there, swaying slightly, eyes locked on stage. And the guard would feel the energy shift. The air would get thick, heavy, like the stadium was holding its breath. And when the song ended, there'd be this collective exhale, release, and people would blink, look around, like they just returned from somewhere else. The friendship bracelets were another element. Fans made thousands of them, traded them with strangers. And the guard noticed the trading wasn't casual. It was ritualistic. Fans would make eye contact, exchange bracelets, hug, like they were completing a circuit, creating connections. And by the end of the night, everyone was wearing multiple bracelets, linked, marked. The guard asked a fan why the bracelets mattered so much. The fan looked at her like the question was absurd. "It's how we recognize each other," she said. "How we know we are family." Family. 60,000 strangers calling each other family after 3 hours. The guard also noticed Taylor's movement on stage. It was specific, choreographed obviously, but more than that, symbolic. She'd make shapes with her hands, gestures that looked like conducting, and the crowd would respond. Volume rising or falling, energy shifting, like she was directing them, orchestrating not just the music but the collective experience. The guard wasn't saying Taylor was doing this maliciously, but she was doing it, consciously or unconsciously, wielding influence over mass consciousness in ways the guard had never seen. By the 10th show, the guard started recognizing repeat attendees, fans who came to multiple dates. And they were different from single show fans. More intense, more devoted, more disconnected from people around them who weren't also multiple show attendees. They spoke in deeper references, new obscure details. And they had this look, this faraway expression, like part of them was always at the Eras tour, even when they weren't. The guard spoke to one repeat fan, asked why she kept coming back. The fan said, "I can't explain it. When I'm here, I'm complete. When I'm not, I'm just waiting to come back." That's not fandom. That's dependency. The seismic activity reports were real. The guard read about them in news articles. How fans dancing created earthquake-level vibrations. But being there, feeling it, was different. The stadium would shake. Physically shake. During certain songs, the ground would vibrate so intensely that the guard had to brace herself. And 60,000 people jumping in unison, moving as one organism, creates force, creates energy. And the guard wondered where that energy went. If it just dissipated. Or if it was being collected, channeled, used for something. Around show 25, the guard started having dreams. She'd be at the stadium. But it was empty. Just her and Taylor on stage. And Taylor would look at her. Not performing. Just standing there. Looking. And the guard would feel that pull again. That urge to surrender. To join. To become part of something larger. She'd wake up sweating. Heart racing. And she'd have Taylor's songs stuck in her head. Songs she didn't even like. Just playing on loop. For days. She couldn't make them stop. And she realized. She'd been affected too. Just from proximity. From witnessing. She wasn't even a fan. But the Eras tour had gotten inside her head. The guard also observed the post-show behavior. Fans would leave the stadium in a daze. Moving slowly. Quietly. Not the usual post-concert high. More like people leaving church. Contemplative. Changed. And many would sit in parking lots for hours. Not ready to leave. Not ready to return to normal life. The guard would watch them. Sitting in cars. Staring at nothing. Processing. And she wondered what they were processing. What had happened to them in those 3.5 hours that required this much integration time? There were also the testimonials. Fans posting online about spiritual experiences at the Eras tour. Seeing visions. Feeling presences. Having breakthroughs. Healing from trauma. Life-changing moments. And the guard didn't doubt them. She'd seen the tears. The shaking. The collapse. This was real. Whatever was happening, it was affecting people deeply. Fundamentally. And whether it was Taylor's intention or just the natural result of that much focused attention, that much collective energy, the effect was undeniable. The guard started researching mass psychology, crowd dynamics, and she learned about collective effervescence, the phenomenon where groups of people experience heightened emotional states together. It's documented in religious gatherings, political rallies, sporting events. But the Eras tour was different. More intense. More sustained. 3.5 hours of continuous emotional manipulation. Carefully designed. Precisely executed. And the guard realized Taylor wasn't just a performer. She was a conductor of mass consciousness. And whether she knew the full extent of her power or not, she was wielding it masterfully. By show 40, the guard was exhausted. Not physically. Psychologically. Being around that much concentrated emotion, that much focused energy, night after night, was draining. She'd go home and feel empty. Like something had been pulled from her. And she'd think about the fans. Giving themselves completely. Offering their emotions, their attention, their energy. And she'd wonder what they were receiving in return. Belonging? Purpose? Connection? Or just the temporary relief of surrendering individual consciousness to something larger. The guard also noticed Taylor herself seemed different as the tour progressed. More powerful. More radiant. Like she was being fed by the crowd's energy. Like she was growing stronger while they grew more dependent. And the guard thought about energy exchange. About how in spiritual traditions, groups can channel power to a central figure. Elevate them. Make them more than human. And she wondered if that's what was happening. If millions of fans, across hundreds of shows, were unconsciously participating in an elevation ritual. Making Taylor into something beyond an artist. An icon. An archetype. A deity. The merchandise was another layer. Fans would buy everything. Multiple items. Spending hundreds, sometimes thousands. Not because they needed it, but because they needed to possess it. To take a piece of the experience home. To maintain the connection. And the guard noticed fans wearing Eras tour merch to subsequent shows. Like a uniform. Like identifying yourself as part of the collective. And those who couldn't afford official merch would make their own. The important thing wasn't the quality. It was the participation. The marking. The declaration of belonging. The guard also observed the way Taylor structured fan interactions. She didn't just perform. She created moments. Specific moments designed to make individual fans feel seen. Pointing. Waving. Smiling at specific people. And those fans would lose it. Completely break down. Because for 1 second, they felt acknowledged. Chosen. Special. And they'd hold on to that moment forever. Build their identity around it. Taylor looked at me. Taylor smiled at me. Taylor pointed at me. And the guard realized this was strategic. Creating these individual connections within the mass experience. Making 60,000 people each feel like they have a personal relationship with someone they'll never actually meet. There was also the parentification dynamic. Taylor would share vulnerabilities. Tell stories about her struggles. Her heartbreaks. Her fears. And fans would respond with protective love. Supportive devotion. They'd defend her online. Support her publicly. Attack anyone who criticized her. Like she was their friend. Their sister. Their responsibility. And the guard recognized this pattern from psychology. Parasocial relationships on steroids. Fans believing they know Taylor. That she needs them. That they're in this together. When in reality, it's completely one-sided. Taylor doesn't know them. Will never know them. But they've built their emotional lives around her. The guard tried to talk to other security staff about what she was observing. Some agreed, felt the same unease. But others dismissed it. It's just a concept. Fans are always intense. You're reading too much into it. And the guard wondered if she was seeing patterns that weren't there, assigning meaning to normal crowd behavior. But then she'd work another show, watch another 60,000 people move as one, feel that energy again. And she'd know. This wasn't normal. This was something else. The media coverage was interesting too. Every article about the Eras tour focused on the spectacle, the economics, the cultural impact. But none addressed the psychological dimension, the emotional manipulation, the mass trance states. Like it was invisible, or like pointing it out would ruin the magic, break the spell. And the guard wondered if that was intentional. If the industry knew what was happening but didn't want to name it. Because naming it would give people power, would allow them to resist. And resistance was bad for business. By the end of the tour, the guard had worked over 40 shows, witnessed hundreds of thousands of fans. And she'd come to a conclusion. The Eras tour wasn't just entertainment. It was a technology, a system for creating mass emotional experiences, for channeling collective energy, for building devoted communities that transcended traditional fandom. And Taylor Swift, intentionally or not, had mastered it. She created something that operated on psychological, emotional, and possibly spiritual levels. Something that changed people. Fundamentally. Permanently. The guard doesn't work those shows anymore. Can't. It was too much. Too intense. And she's speaking now because she thinks people deserve to know what they're participating in. When you go to an Eras tour show, you're not just seeing a concert. You're entering a carefully constructed psychological environment designed to break down individual resistance and create collective experience. You're surrendering your emotional autonomy, your attention, your energy, and you're receiving belonging, connection, purpose, in return. For some people, that's beautiful, healing, transformative. For others, it's concerning, manipulative, dangerous. The guard's warning is simple. Be conscious. Be aware. If you go to an Eras tour show, or any massive concert event, know what's happening. Know that you're being influenced. That your emotions are being guided. That you're part of a collective experience that transcends individual choice. And that's not necessarily bad. Humans need collective experiences. Need to feel part of something larger. But it should be chosen. Understood. Not unconscious. Not manipulated. And the Eras tour, for all its magic and beauty, operates largely through unconscious influence. Through patterns and structures designed to bypass critical thinking and access pure emotion. The tour is over now. But the effects remain. Millions of people around the world who attended those shows carry something from the experience. A connection, a memory, a yearning, and they're waiting for the next tour, the next album, the next moment they can return to that collective space, that sense of belonging. And the guard wonders, if Taylor retired tomorrow, if she never performed again, what would happen to all those people who've built their emotional lives around her? Who found identity in being Swifties? Who've experienced transcendence in those stadiums? Would they transfer that devotion elsewhere? Or would they be lost? Searching for something that can't be replicated. The Eras tour proved something the guard always suspected but never saw at this scale. We are not as individual as we think. We are deeply susceptible to collective influence, to emotional contagion, to the power of shared experience. And when someone as talented, as strategic, as culturally powerful as Taylor Swift focuses that influence, the results are unprecedented. Record-breaking, history-making, and potentially, consciousness-altering. The guard doesn't know if Taylor understands the full extent of what she created. If she sees the Eras tour as just a concert or as something more. But either way, the effect is the same. Millions of people were changed. And the blueprint exists now. For other artists, other movements, other leaders. The Eras Tour showed what's possible when you combine talent, strategy, technology, and mass psychology. And that should excite us, inspire us, and terrify us, all at once.